Finovate showcases cutting-edge banking and financial technology through a global conference series featuring short-form demos and thought leadership. Now, the conversation continues on the Finovate podcast.
Hey, and welcome to the Finovate podcast. We are continuing our exploration with the FinovateSpring Best of Show winners. And joining me today, we have Jens Hinrichson and Robert MacDonald of 1Kosmos. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Greg.
It's happy to be here.
So as you've heard me say over the past couple of weeks, all of the videos from FinovateSpring are available online at finovate.com/videos. I would highly recommend checking out 1Kosmos' full demo video up there. But for those of us who haven't heard or seen anything about you, Jens, can you start with just a quick 60 seconds on some background of what 1Kosmos is all about?
Would love to, Greg. And again, thanks for pulling us back together. I just have to give the quick plug to Finovate. I mean, having had the pleasure of going to so many of your events over the years, and it's actually the third company I'm with now that's had the honor of demoing with you guys, and it's just always fun. So again, I want to give you guys kudos, you, Heather, the whole crew. It's amazing. So look, in a nutshell, 1Kosmos. I think the reason why Robert, others are so happy and excited to be part of the team is. First of all, it is a great team. It's an amazing group of founders and others who've come in from the identity and access management world, from the information security world, the digital world, fraud world, you name it, and fundamentally are trying to be groundbreaking in the sense of helping companies truly know who's behind the device. That was part of our demo, right? Hey, this is actually Greg. And if you know this is Greg, you compare it back to the old days. You walk into a bank, walk into a store, have face-to-face dealings, and you knew it was Greg, you knew it was Robert. We obviously don't have that luxury, in this day and age. And we're all guessing. I love one of our co-founders calls it hope-based authentication, right? We're looking at all these signals. We're trying to guess probabilistically on, is this Greg? And it either is or it isn't. It's not 87.236% Greg, right? And so what's really, really fun about 1Kosmos, it has brought definitive, this is truly Greg behind the device, whether you're opening up a bank account, whether you're going through a very high-risk transaction, let's say it's a $20,000 Cartier that you're going to buy your wife, Greg, as always, right? It really has the opportunity to kind of change the game across the board, right? Whether you're a CISO, a CIO, a CDO, you're head of fraud, you're a fraud analyst, it doesn't matter. So that's really us in a nutshell. And we've been fortunate to be working with some really, really innovative companies already. And would love to dig into more of the items you want to cover with us today.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. And again, you can see from the demo exactly how passionate you are about that as a high-level goal, making sure that it is who they say they are behind the device. This is something which, as I'm sure, is not news to you. There's a lot of people kind of playing in this biometric authentication space, and yet your demo really resonated. Obviously, the demo itself was really strong, but the technology itself has something unique about it that seems to capture people's attention. So what do you think it is that sets you apart from others in the space? And Rob, I'll come to you on this one.
Sure. Well, we're unique because we bind the user to their verified identity. And like you said, there are a lot of other, companies, vendors out there that are providing passwordless or, different ways to do authentication. There are other vendors that are out there that are doing identity verification, identity proofing. But really, we're the only one vendor that brings those two worlds together. And what we're doing is we're taking the identity verification part, so the ID part. So we'll scan driver's license, passport, and we'll take the pictures off those, and we'll compare those pictures to the biometric capture that we take at the time of enrollment, and we'll make sure that all of that stuff works. And we can even take the information that's on those documents and go out and check them against the issuing authorities to make sure that the driver's license number is valid, or the passport's valid. So that concept of identification plus you, so ID plus me, we use that at every step going forward for authentication. So the biometric that we take at the very beginning, we'll do a facial scan. We'll use that as a reference going forward. So every time you go to authenticate, you'll give us another live selfie, and we'll compare that live selfie to the one that we took at authentication. And that's how we're able to prove that it is you behind the device. Like Jens said, the whole idea, the whole concept of what we're doing is trying to prove identity online, where it's ones and zeros. Like, how do you prove that somebody is who they claim to be if all you have are ones and zeros to look at? So what we're trying to do, or what we are doing, is giving that assurance level that a user is who they claim to be, and we're certified against that. So we're, FIDO2 certified authenticator. We're certified against the NIST framework by Cantera, so 800-63-3. We have an iBeta certification for our biometrics. So we have third-party organizations that have looked at our technology and said, yep, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. And we're really the only ones that are able to do that. When you look at authentication as it stands today, it proves possession. It doesn't really prove who the user is. And like Jens said, there's a level of hope that is associated with all of those types of authentication. So, we have full journeys. We can do it, through a web journey. We can do it on an app. You don't have to go the full biometric level if the risk associated with your business doesn't need that. We can just verify, emails and driver's licenses and emails and phone numbers and social security numbers right through to, government issued ID. So we have an entire journey that can match to your business case or business need as well.
Yeah, no, really interesting. And I would encourage anybody who's interested to look them up, because obviously that was a lot of pieces kind of coming at you from the certification standpoint. But this is really important work that needs to be done to make sure that somebody's come through and double checking this. And they have. And I think that speaks highly to what you've been able to build. I know it's not just financial companies that are using your technology, although I believe you do have some kind of good names there that you might be able to share. But what other areas are you pointing 1Kosmos towards?
Yeah, no, that's an outstanding question, Greg. Certainly, and inherently, just us being part of, the Finovate family, certainly the broader fintech, right? So we're very fortunate to be working with some large Wall Street banks, the likes of Jefferies Investment Bank, one of the largest out there. A couple of the other largest we can't mention by name.
Sure.
But when you look across, say, the healthcare spectrum, right, we're part of the Caring Alliance, really an effort by a number of entities to have a modern, centralized way by which all stakeholders across the medical space, health space, can say, hey, I am who I say I am, and therefore have access to certain systems, can do certain things, et cetera. You look at telecommunications, right? Vodafone, one of the largest telecommunications providers. We've teamed up with them. You look at anywhere, insurance is obviously another very big play, right? But anywhere there's also, and I think this is fascinating too, anywhere there's a community also, right? Where there's the veracity and the trust of the community. And, it's interesting, AAA has a variety of businesses across its own portfolio. And so we're working with them, not just to make sure that their employees and contractors and whomever are who they say they are, but also their end users, right? So there are a variety of spaces that we're fortunate enough to play. And I think, you do, like so much, you do tend to see a lot of activity in the regulated industries, of course, right?
Yeah.
And that can certainly vary by region. But I think fundamentally, and it's gonna increase in time, right? It's funny too, you look at streaming services, right? Only kind of till recently has there been hey, we're gonna crack down on password sharing a little bit, right? So, I think all industries are just kind of on a continuum of, how quickly they're going to embrace that ability to truly know who it is, but then also provide that very modern authentication experience, which includes passwordless. And I think that's the other point here too. It's not just diving headfirst into passwordless, right? We work with a number of organizations that it's like anything in life. If you try to just cut over black and white, or if anybody's been a smoker, I haven't been, but trying to cut off, cold turkey, so there's got to be that plan in that journey. And I think, again, there are going to be a multitude of other industries beyond the ones that we've talked about that are obviously going to come upon.
Just to add on to that, I guess another important distinction, is the fact that, that migration of users, whether it be workforce, customers, citizens, because our platform works across all three of those spectrums, that you have to have a plan or a platform that could support the migration from what they were doing to what you're proposing that they do, right? Because if anything, if there's one thing that people hate more than maybe passwords, it's change. So one of the benefits of our platform is that it's an entire authentication platform. So yes, we do the live biometric that I talked about earlier, but we also have, the traditional forms of authentication that enable organizations to move to passwordless without disrupting the day-to-day business either. So it's not you log in with your username and password on Friday, and like Jens said, you come in on Monday, and all of a sudden you're staring at a QR code. People will be like, "What is going on?" So we're able to support, that transition and make sure that organizations have a successful deployment of a passwordless ecosystem.
Yeah. And Robert mentioned an important one, citizens too, right? A lot of work already that we're blessed to be doing in the federal or public sector space. And that, of course, right, whether at the country level, but, agencies, across different countries, it's so important, again, for the employees of these agencies, departments, you name it, as well as citizens. And so really some profound change going to go on there and continue to go on there in terms of how we as citizens of whatever, or denizens of whatever country or even state or local entity that we're interacting with, that whole experience is going through some truly profound change now.
Yeah, really cool. So I want to switch topics just a little bit and get into something maybe a little bit more lighthearted, because I don't think we can actually talk about your demo without talking about the song that Jens sang at the beginning. So again, if you haven't seen the video, you should go and check it out to see what we're talking about. But I just have to ask, where did that idea come from? Is somebody over there a fan of Weird Al Yankovic? You wanted to just try and write your own lyrics and bring something in? It was obviously a very creative way to start the demo, and I think it's absolutely served as the attention getter that you hope that it would.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll give you also many kudos to Greg for kind of helping us frame it, as you always do, and help it kind of be a bit more of what it was intended to be. But I think you hit the nail on the head, and it actually goes back to the points earlier, having been to a lot of these events, right? And I think actually the first demo that I ever did with you guys years and years and years ago, our kids and we don't use the words like worst or terrible, so it would have been the least best of show. I have experience with kind of the other end of the spectrum. We actually kind of started thinking about it in the sense of, okay, well, we don't want to get donged. How can we put something? And so originally we were thinking of, hey, we could keep a song and a track and a meter, and you helped us think through that, and we redid it a little bit. But I think it is just making it a little bit more interesting, right? A little more engaging. I mean, even if we're talking about something really, really nitty gritty, let's try to bring some, not even just levity to it, but some creativity to it. So we had fun putting the lyrics together on it, right? And I do have to admit, right? I mean, I ended up in the world of business, but if I could have afforded to support my mother and me on an actor's wage, I probably would have. So a little bit of a selfish way to kind of weave that in, but I think we just had fun with it, and it was really cool too. And I think this goes to the group that goes to Finovate. You have a very engaged group, and it was fun how many people were coming up, striking up conversation from it, and they appreciated it, and they thought it was something just to break up the usual demo monotony.
Yeah,
it was fun because I mean we had a couple of Twitter posts from people sitting in the audience and standing there watching it. Everybody was kind of like, "What's going on up there?"
The heads just come up all at once. Yeah. No, I think the advice that I gave you was, if you're going to do this, you really have to commit to it, and you absolutely did. And as a fellow theater kid myself, I actually frequently tell people from my high school, oh yeah, I'm up on stage on Broadway all the time. It's a financial technology conference at the Marriott Marquis in New York, but I am up on stage, and Broadway is literally right out there.
Not even off Broadway. It's on
Broadway. Technically,
semantics. The rest of it is just semantics.
So we're coming up on the end of our time, and I want to end by just kind of zooming out a little bit and talking about the future of secure account access in general. Now, you talked about the thing people hate more than passwords is change, which I think is really shrewd thing to say. But are we approaching the stage where we kind of collectively realize that passwords, or maybe more accurately, the way people end up using passwords, don't really work? They don't provide the level of security that we need? Or is there still a place for the password-centric login in the future? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, passwords are not going away tomorrow. they're still going to be around. I mean, if there's one thing that you can there's two things you can guarantee in the world. One, the sun's going to come up in the morning. And two, anytime you open up a new account, there's going to be a username and password. Right. So they're everywhere. It's the way we've engaged with computers since the beginning of time.
Right.
At least 60, 70 years. I mean, if you think about all of the change that has happened within the security space, the one thing that hasn't changed is the username and password, right? We've put a whole bunch of technologies in to try to help secure it, but we still haven't solved the problem until, now. So, they're not going to go away anytime soon. And frankly, they're in some instances, maybe that's all you need, because if you're working with customers, you want to make sure you have a low barrier of entry, or not a lot of friction to work with them. And if the risk involved with the activity says, username and password's fine, then because you're just downloading a white paper off the 1Kosmos website, then that's fine. But as we move forward, I think people are becoming increasingly frustrated and tired with the fact that they don't know who is on the other side of that digital connection, right? If we look at, don't want to throw Twitter under the bus, but there's you have to pay for a blue check mark now, so that still doesn't prove identity. But going forward, if you had a digital wallet, like the 1Kosmos digital wallet, where you could log in or provide your credential to somebody to say, this is Rob, and then you're dealing with Rob, well, then the engagements online become very different, because you're dealing with a real person. It's not a bad actor. It's not a synthetic identity. It's not somebody trying to commit fraud. I mean, those things are still going to happen, or people are still going to try to make them happen. But what we're trying to develop, or what we're trying to introduce, or what we're bringing to the market, is something that eliminates a lot of those things. So anytime you start to deal with somebody or something online, that it is that person. It's not somebody sitting in their parents' basement trying to tear somebody down. You know what I mean? Like all those things that are part of the internet right now start to go away, because we've got a verified credential, and you're using it to engage online, meaning that every time you go to log in, well, then that's Robert MacDonald, and here's we know that it's him because we have information about him. Now, one of the benefits to our platform as well is that the user controls their privacy, and you can only I'm only going to share things with you that I deem necessary. But at the end of the day, because of the way in which we verify the users, when I go to log into my financial institution, or I go to log into my healthcare provider, or I go to log into a government service, they know that it's me. And that's going to continue to transition as the web starts to move to a decentralized framework. 1Kosmos is already built to support that framework and that decentralized Web3 construct that's coming over the next number of years.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really interesting version of the future, and I think you're spot on. The passwords are never going to completely go away, but there's still a lot more that we can do, a lot more that you are doing. And again, it's easy to see why the technology that you showcased resonated so much with our audience. Yeah. So again, check out the demo video, 1Kosmos. That is the number one. FinovateSpring videos, as I said, are all available at finovate.com/videos. I've been chatting with Jens Hinrichson and Robert MacDonald of 1Kosmos. Thank you both so much for taking the time, and hope to see you again at a future event.
Awesome.
You absolutely will. Thank you,
Greg.
The Finovate podcast is produced by Informa Connect in association with Provoke.fm Media. Check out Finovate.com for information on Finovate's upcoming shows and to learn how you can get involved. The discount code Finovate Podcast will save you 20% on tickets to all of our events. And you can email us at info@finovate.com for information on sponsoring, speaking, or demoing. Thanks for listening.